My name is Natalie Fritz, and I'm the archivist for the Clark County Historical Society. And tonight we're doing another virtual program. And we haven't done this in a little while, but we're doing trivia tonight. And this is just going to be local Springfield and Clark County trivia. And if you have paid attention to anything that's been posted in the last 8 months to a year on our Facebook page or anything online, you probably will know some of these answers. Or if you've lived through them, unlike me, you may know some of these answers. I always tell people I'm not a time traveler. Actually, there are some things in here that are within my memory, but I'm not from here and didn't grow up here. So most of the stuff that I've learned about local history, I've learned from working in the archives and working with wonderful volunteers and meeting people in the community who tell me about the past. So programs like this are a great way to learn more and get more information from people. So I always encourage people to speak up and share more if we have a fact wrong, or if you know something that we should add to the story or add to the history. This is going to be recorded like all of our virtual programs, and they are always available afterwards on our YouTube channel and on our Facebook page. We have a lot more stuff on YouTube now with all of those digital videos that we shared at our last program. And all of those, if anyone was at the last program where we shared all the videos that we had digitized, those are now on Ohio Memory as well, which is the Ohio Historical Society's Ohio History Connections main page where they share Ohio history, which means those videos will show up in searches more for people beyond just our website and YouTube. So they'll get a greater view there. But tonight I've just got some questions that I hope, if you don't know, we can all learn a little something. But it's Jeopardy style trivia. So everything's got a little bit of a clue in it to help you get the answer. If some of this requires a little bit more knowledge of Springfield history, but I figure if you're here, you've got some knowledge of Springfield history. So this may be fun for you. As I said, it's being recorded, so that it'll be available later. We have 6 categories that we'll be pulling from. Unlike the regular game, you won't be able to choose as we go. I just have this as an order as we go down the line. But the categories are good eats, which will be about Springfield eateries, downtown Springfield, which we'll focus on, places and things in downtown Springfield, local art, who am I, what's it, and miscellaneous, which is my absolute favorite word. It's actually not my favorite word. Anything that's used as miscellaneous to describe a collection, I always tell people, come up with a better word. There's got to be a better word than miscellaneous to explain what is in this folder or what is in this box. But I decided it would be a good for a category to just throw anything in there that we didn't fit into other categories in miscellaneous. So that's what you'll find in that one. So without further, so this is where you guys can unmute and answer, and you can just go ahead and shout it out. The points are made up and they don't matter, so this isn't for a prize. So you guys, it's all right to get it wrong. It's all right to get it right. So you guys can just unmute and jump in and make a guess, and then the next slide will be the answer. I'm not going to make anybody wait to the end or anything. This will be just like Jeopardy. We'll have the answer afterwards. So we'll start with good eats for 200. Originally in car sales, Whole Dobbs of Tennessee branched out into the restaurant business, opening in Springfield in 1938. Later called Toddle House, today it is this popular bar and pizza place.
This is short.
Does anyone know where that is located now? No guesses? Well, it has the same name as the place across the street from it, which is the fire station. So today it's Station 1. So we have these great pictures in our collection from the 1940s showing some of the waitresses in Whole Dobbs. And when we did some of the research on it, we found out that it was only Whole Dobbs for a few years. But Whole Dobbs was actually a car chain that decided to open restaurants, and they opened one in Springfield. And we had a Whole Dobbs dealership here in Springfield. And today it's Station 1, which has really great pizza over there across from Station 1 Firehouse.
Mm-hmm.
Next question is about downtown Springfield for 600. Originally the Melody Show Bar in 1946 and later the Capri Lounge, this popular night spot on the corner of the arcade was last known by this name.
Capri?
Capri was the name before its last name. Do you know what it was last?
Saturdays.
Yes. It was Saturdays. So it was Saturdays in the 70s in the corner of the arcade. And we have a picture, kind of an aerial photo showing the edge of the arcade there, and you can see Saturdays is down in the corner. And when I was trying to look up more information about Saturdays, a lot of what I found was police reports that were in the paper. So they had a lot of evening fights there. Was most of the mention that I saw towards the end. But I can see that, you know, they had college day with draft beers reduced, so maybe that was part of it. So but we know it was a long time place that opened in 46 as the Melody Bar. I know Dick Hatfield messaged me last week because he had really fond memories of seeing some of his favorite acts that came to the Melody Bar, and it was that until the 50s when it became the Capri Lounge, and a lot of people remember it as that as well. And then it was Saturdays until they started buying out all of the stores in the arcade after the city bought the arcade in the 80s. And then Saturdays moved to Union Station, which was the old Top Hat, which I think, isn't that over by where the Burger King is now on Main Street?
It's by Frisch's.
By Frisch's, so across the street there.
Natalie?
Yeah.
I don't know if you can see this.
Yeah, a
It
jar.
says Tuttle House.
Oh, you got a yeah.
I got it at my friend's auction last week, so
Oh.
I can donate that if you're interested.
Yeah, that would be really cool. I don't think the stuff I pulled from Tuttle House I found online because we didn't have anything about Tuttle House. So yeah, that would be great. Oh, the one thing I loved when I was looking it up was when it was a few years into under new ownership at the Melody, they had 1 pound steak dinners for $2.50 that you could get. Our next question is about local art. This unique minimalist sculpture by Ronald Bladen was recently removed from the City Hall Plaza as part of plaza renovations.
Oracle's vision.
Yes. So they were moving that a couple of weeks ago. This is the picture here of the installation with the artist putting it in. So I thought it was fitting to have it next to they had the crane over there for most of the day. Was it last week or the week before now? I can't remember when they were taking it out. So I'll be excited to see what the whole plaza looks like when they're done with all the renovations over there. But I know it's a controversial piece, and that some people really love it and some people really hate it. And when they announced that it was going out, a lot of people got up in arms about it. And I was like, well, now they won't have half the people complaining about it. So it'll be interesting to see what it looks like over there in the future. Next question about downtown Springfield. The owners of this downtown church building, which opened at Center and High in 1912, recently announced it will reopen as an event center and dinner theater.
Central Methodist?
It is Central Methodist. And they are our neighbor. They're across the way from us. So when we saw that they were having a open house for people to check it out, we all walked over to check it out one day. And then we went down in the basement and found out they were having a sale, which we didn't know, because when they bought the building, it came with everything in it that had been there for the community center. So they had all sorts of stuff. So I went through to see what I could find that was history related and asked if they would just donate it to the museum. So this is what I found that was related to the church history. They had a plate from the 50th anniversary of the church, which I didn't think we had in our collection. A plate from Story Heights, which was another church that used to be where the Tim Hortons is on Main Street. And then they had their own china for Central Methodist Church that we got one of those. And then there was some Christmas music. Next question is who am I? 400. I was a longtime Springfield lawyer who had 2 downtown buildings named after me, both old and new, plus the old Wittenberg Library.
George Zimmerman.
It was actually, yes, Zimmerman. I think it was John Zimmerman.
John?
Yeah. John Zimmerman Sr. He had a son, also John Zimmerman Jr. They were both lawyers. And then there was Charles Zimmerman, his son, who became a Ohio Supreme Court judge.
Yeah.
But the old, I thought when I was looking up more about this, I thought this was really interesting. I found all this stuff about the new Zimmerman building, and I said, oh, okay, the old Zimmerman building must have come down not long after. Well, then old Zimmerman building and the new Zimmerman building coexisted for like 30 years together or longer. And then there was a fire in the new Zimmerman building. And then this is Zimmerman, the old Zimmerman Library, which is now, I think it's still standing. It's just Zimmerman Hall now. The current library at Wittenberg is the Thomas Library. And then this was Charles Zimmerman's house on, I think it's on Forest Avenue, going out towards the edge of town. But this was interesting. He was doing a newspaper campaign where they were selling busts of Lincoln. So it made me wonder, are we someday going to get offered one of those busts of Lincoln that somebody's had since 1939 that they were selling for that? Because I bet you there's still something out there like that. Here's a what's it? Does anyone have any idea what this item in our collection is? Any guesses? I think this was before anybody's time to see in use.
John Fritz would know.
He would know. I think when we originally posted this on this page, he had probably a pretty good answer for what it was. But it was a cash carrier that was used at the hub. So, like they have the pneumatic tubes now that some stores would use to send payments from one place to another. They used to do it with like a pulley system. And this was, so it twisted off there down at the bottom, and you could put your money in there, and then they sent it along the pulley system. And we were told that this was used at the hub. All right, this is Good Eats for 400. The first Taco Bell east of the Mississippi opened in 1968 in Springfield, with this local man as the manager.
Jim Lopez.
Yes, Jim Lopez.
Tacos were a quarter back then.
I remember when I was young, they were still pretty cheap, and then they've gone up significantly since then. This is a picture from the grand opening on East Main, and that building is still standing. That's where they have the check cashing loan place that's over there on Main Street. And here's Jim Lopez, who also had Jim's Coney's. So I think this is him with Coney dogs, but. I never had a Bell burger, but it sounded like a sloppy Joe to me. Was that what they were like?
I never had one.
But I know a lot of people tell me about they remember.
I think Leanne sells them now.
Yeah, Leanne Leanne is his
Daughter.
Leanne Lopez. Leanne's Dairy Delight
Yes.
from East High. And they've got a wide variety of good food there, including conies. There's miscellaneous for 600. Daniel Rudd, a Black layman activist who believed the Catholic Church would help end the color line and who ran a newspaper in the 1880s, now has a historical marker in front of this church.
Hayes.
St. Ray's?
Yep.
Yep. It was dedicated a couple of years ago in that little side yard next to the church. And this guy here, Gary Agee, he had written a book about him. And that was when we first heard about him, was he had contacted the archives looking for information about research, and we had him as a speaker here at the Heritage Center. But he's helped uncover more about Daniel Rudd's story and his life. And they got the marker a few years ago. And it's actually a double-sided marker with different text on each side, which is rare. They don't always do that a lot. Like our marker outside the Heritage Center is same text on both sides. Oh, this is a Who Am I for 800. I raised prize-winning cows on my farm east of Springfield, started the calf scramble at the Clark County Fair using my own cows, and founded Bonded Oil.
Paul Deere.
Yes. It's Paul Deere. We got this great portrait of him donated by the family a few years ago of Mr. Kuss, his son-in-law. And the collection includes pictures of every single bonded oil station. So we have, there's a box upstairs that has them all separated by cities that they're in. And this is a picture from the very first calf scramble in 1954. We talked to the winner of the scramble, was Mr. Rinker. And he came and did an interview with us a couple of years ago to talk about what it was like, and he got to keep his cow and come back and sell it the next year. This is Mr. Deere from the Houston Moors collection in the archives. And one thing they thought was neat, when they had on their 20th and 25th anniversary, they gave away free cars. And that was advertised in the paper. I never found who won the cars. I wonder who won them, but they gave away a Buick Riviera that year for their 20th anniversary. And local art for 200. We have this new mural by Gaia on East Main, celebrates this woman who was instrumental in battling segregation at Fulton School. Anyone remember her name? They dedicated it last October. It's Hattie Mosley is her name. And I think her name is down on the corner by the up by the edge there. It does have her name when you drive by. But it's a beautiful mural, very, very colorful. It's really neat to drive by and see all that color that it's brought to downtown alongside West Banco there. But when we had we did a March Madness bracket of local public art and found all of the murals and artists and statues and things that are all throughout Springfield and Clark County and matched them up against each other. And this came out as a tie for the winner. And all right. Downtown Springfield for 400. What building is under construction here?
Library?
Yes. So this is sometime before 1989. So you can see the edge of the Heritage Center and most of these other, well, I say there's some houses over here that aren't standing anymore, that are on the corner across Center Street. But everything else, besides Kroll Collier and this, are similar now, but you wouldn't be able to see this view because the library takes up that whole space now. of that view. So here's a picture of the kind of from that same angle, looking back towards our building, and the old Warder Library, which is the Literacy Center, and their original bookmobile here, and then one of their later bookmobiles, and I think they just debuted a new bookmobile last week. They had out. Okay, this is a what's it for 1,000. This spark gap transmitter model is similar to the one that would have been used by this local amateur radio operator whose parents had their home designed by Frank Lloyd Wright.
John Westcott, wasn't it?
Yes. So this is actually on loan from the Westcott House. And Burton and Orpha's son, John, was a amateur radio operator, a ham radio operator, and somebody had built this spark gap generator as a to demonstrate what he would have used. It actually works. It's very loud. It does make sparks. We were going to do right now it's part of a exhibit that we have up about ham radio history, and we talk about local ham radio too. And we're going to have an open house on October 16th with the club, the people from the club, to talk about the exhibit and share, and they'll do a demonstration of this generator. Miscellaneous for 200. William Bailey originally acquired Rogers Iron, which made fences and lawnmowers. And eventually his company became known for this product, which can be found in buildings around the country.
Windows.
Yes. Bailey Windows. This is a 1945 employee photo. We actually have a huge collection of for Bailey Windows that has pictures of hundreds of windows in buildings. A lot of them are pieces and parts of windows, like salesman samples and pictures that they were using to sell them. But we have lots of the pictures of the buildings where windows were all through the collection. Here's a Who Am I for 200. I played at the Coconut Lounge in Urbana in 1964 and stayed at a hotel in Springfield. My bandmates and I were later arrested for not paying our hotel bill, but we didn't cry about it.
Four Seasons.
Frankie Valley.
Frankie Valley.
Frankie Valley. So they played at the Coconut. This is the ad for the Coconut Lounge. They played in July 1964. And then when they came back in 1965 to play at the Ohio State Fair, there was a warrant for their arrest. So they were arrested when they got off the stage. They were doing a radio show or something, and they got arrested. And so I liked that it said, the article says, Springfield will probably play host to 3 members of the Four Seasons, but their unscheduled appearance will be in municipal court. That's a very cheeky newspaper article there. And we shared this when we figured out that the anniversary was coming up and that Frankie Valley was actually still touring and playing at the Rose. We did this post and tagged the Rose in it, and they shared it with their concert goers for that week. This is Good Eats for 400. With flavors like lemon custard, grape, black walnut, red drop, and butter brickle, this popular ice cream place was located at Oak and Selma.
Riverdale.
Yes, Riverdale. And those flavors sound delicious. I wish that I could get any of those. I don't think, Patty, I know you've been going through a lot of our advertising stuff. I don't know if we have anything from Riverdale. I know I've seen people that have like calendars and cards, and I've seen, this, a little cup from there, but I haven't seen anything that we have.
I think there is one calendar
We have a
with
calendar.
Riverdale on it, but I'm like halfway through the room right now, so there's still a lot to
There
look
might
at.
be more stuff. I should do a search for it. But I couldn't find any images today, so I found this one online of the little cup. Downtown Springfield for 800. Recently renovated and dedicated in May 2023, this was the resting place of many of Springfield's earliest settlers.
Springfield Burying Grounds.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Bob's not unmuted right now. Bob was on the committee for this. So Springfield Burying Ground or DeMint Cemetery or Columbia Street Cemetery, whatever you call it. It's got a beautiful new gate that says Springfield Burying Ground on it. And I don't know if anybody was able to make it to the dedication, but it was really wonderful. It was great to see all of the Revolutionary War soldier graves the way they are, and they had a great ceremony. And they unveiled the James DeMint statue, which I know is something that they've been working on for many years to have that made. So our program in October, still tentatively, we're working on for middle of October. I think the 18th we're aiming for is to do a virtual program about this, so I can share more about the story of what all it took to finally get this project done. Because I know that, I mean, it is the oldest cemetery, and we have newspaper articles from basically every decade talking about how it needed work done, that, you know, it needed to be kept up, that it was in terrible condition. And I know that they did it, that there was a big project done in the 20s, but you know, it's great to see what's been able to be done for it, considering the the earliest pioneers are all buried there. So it looks really beautiful. Local art for 1,000. They have, in 1957, young artist Andy Minter, Springfield High School class of 1956, painted this iconic clown. She did a painting of Bozo the Clown, not the Bozo the Clown not the Emmett, I can't think of his last name.
Kelly?
Yeah, and not the Emmett Kelly. Apparently, the character of Bozo the Clown did originate with Ralph Harrell in Dayton. Was the first they tracked back his makeup and style
Unmuted.
earlier.
It says mute.
And
Click on
and
it.
we talked with her family, and she was a painter all the way up to the end of her life. She just died a couple of years ago, and the family had let us come out and look at the paintings that she had in storage, and they had offered the Bozo the Clown one, because we had this great article from 1957 when he came to town to meet with her so she could do the painting. So it had a great story behind it, and you know, she was a young artist who painted her whole life. She traveled a lot in the Southwest, and that's what a lot of her collection was. It was Southwestern painting style and people that you saw out west. But it's a neat part of the collection, and a story that we didn't know about, and an artist that we didn't have anything about. So everybody told me, please don't take the clown painting, because apparently we've got some staff that aren't so keen on clowns. But I said, we're taking the clown painting because it's awesome. I said, I won't make you stare at it, although we did have it in Kelly's office where she could see it for a while. So this is a Who Am I for 1,000. I graduated from Springfield High School in 1949 and appeared in several iconic teen movies in the 1950s and 60s, and was known for my baby face.
Jonathan Winters.
Kenny Miller.
Kenny Miller.
Oh.
Yep. There's Kenny Miller. So we have a copy of his book, Surviving Teenage Werewolves, Puppet People in Hollywood, that he wrote. But this was something that I ran across in the paper that I really loved. They used to do a series, What the Teenagers Are Doing, and this was when he was 17, talking about what he wanted to do with his career. And he did. He ended up, going to Hollywood and having a career there. So, and I know if you guys remember Andy McGinn, he used to write for the Springfield News-Sun. He was a big fan of his and got to meet him and wrote about him a few times in the paper. This is a picture of them together. Downtown Springfield for 400. When the Clark State Performing Arts Center opened on November 6, 1993, this legendary singer performed during the opening gala.
Johnny Mathis?
No. Did anyone go to the opening?
He was a country singer.
It was a country singer.
I can't think of his name, though.
No, it wasn't. No, it wasn't a guy. It was a woman. And actually, I'm not sure what genre of music. It's Rosemary Clooney.
Oh.
Oh,
So they had a big performance with all sorts of local. They had the symphony and local choirs and things, and then she was their big like headliner for the opening night. And this was one of the prints that was sold when it was first opening. And this is a what's it for 800, and it's something that's used to control fuel to an engine cylinders. Even know what that is.
Is that what they call a governor?
It's a governor.
Oh.
So, and I took a picture of the one that we got off of the new Kelly Springfield Road Roller that we got earlier this year. And they explained, well, it was going super slow because it was being run by an air compressor. And we were just slowly driving it into the building. But if it were to be going fast, the little blue balls would kind of flatten out as it like it gets down lower, kind of like a I don't know, like a squish, like when you so they would go out to the side as it's speeding up.
Centrifugal force would force them to the outside.
Okay. So yeah, this is John Yowler, who restored this steamroller here that was used to roll out the parking lot a few years ago. And this one is beautifully restored and painted, and it's green and yellow, and it's got the buffalo on it. So this is a very different model than the one that we currently have in the museum. So we're talking about trying to figure out how to switch them out at some point to have, or maybe have both of them in there. So there's some planning some big changes in the expo hall that would allow for this one to be in there as well. But this is another steamroller out in town rolling the street, I think, by Emerson School over on Claremont area. If that's the right school that was over there. I know this is over by Claremont, whichever school was over there. This is Good Eats for 600. A local church ran this popular food spot at the Clark County Fair for many years before closing in 2017.
Highland Church.
Yep. So the Highlands Cafeteria. And they have, I think CTC built a new shelter out there in the spot where the cafeteria used to be, and it's named the Highlands Cafeteria Shelter. But this is the Highlands Church before, when they first bought it, and then this is a later photo and some interior photos, and then here's a picture of the cafeteria area at the fair, which I only went there once. I think we went the year before it closed, or maybe the year that it closed was the only time that I'd ever been there. But the food was really good, good home cooking stuff that you could get out of the fair. And when the church closed, they closed because the church closed, they donated their whole collection. So we have lots of pictures and stuff in the archives from them. This is local art for 600. Dedicated in 1928, this statue, one of 12 across the country, dedicated to the spirit of pioneer women, has found a few different homes along the National Road.
Madonna.
Yes, the Madonna of the Trail. So there was this great picture in the paper showing her being carved. And I know that in 1927, they were still trying to figure out where exactly to put it. And then they decided it was going to Springfield. So first it was out by the Masonic home in 1928 when it was first dedicated. And then it was moved over to the spot by Snyder Park where the Rose is now. And then in 2011, they moved it downtown to the National Road Commons Park. And now it has a National Road marker near her as well. But this was the art piece that tied for the best local art thing that we have for our March Madness. It tied with the new mural, which I thought was interesting because this was the oldest thing on the list from 1928. And then the Hattie Mosley mural was the newest thing on the list. And they came down to a legit tie on votes for winning it.
Why did they paint it red? Do you know? Some
Is
kind
it
of
painted? It doesn't actually have paint on it, I don't think.
No,
Does it? I think
no,
the
that's the
stone
material they used, I think.
I think the stone is red. Yeah, I'm not sure why.
It wasn't always red.
I'm not.
While
not
it stood out on Route 40, it was
Yeah,
well,
because
that little
this is
picture on the postcard there.
this
Well,
is a postcard from 40.
He restored it several years ago, so maybe when he worked on it somehow.
That was the color. Yeah, because I've only ever seen it red, like red looking.
No.
I mean, so I don't know how long it's been that color because the postcards we have are much older.
Mhm.
Was the first location at the Masonic home?
Yes. And then I'm not sure what year they moved it out to the park, but it had to do with widening the road, which is why they had to move it from the Masonic home. Now, this is what's it? So do you know what this is?
It's a starting date for track.
Starting blocks.
Yep, starting blocks. So this is showing a more modern runner's block here. And this actually came from L.G. Ronimus, who was a longtime coach. I think was he Thor Ronimus? He was Thor Ronimus's dad. Yeah.
Yes, he was.
Yeah. And these are some pics. This another track coach was C. Richard Robinson, who was a coach of the Springfield Community Track Club. We have a large collection of their photos and trophies and everything from them as well. So I shared some of the running stuff that we have to go with the runner's block. Which if Patty hadn't told me what it was, I wouldn't have known what it was. It's miscellaneous. Run by Clark County Retired Teachers Association, this schoolhouse near New Carlisle lets students step back in time to 1878.
Liberty one-room school.
Not Liberty.
Advance.
Yeah. So Mrs. Connie Bost here, she did a little presentation and explanation about what they do for students at the last Grable open house earlier this summer. But they had an open house in August that people could come out and see what they do and to do some demonstrations just for the general public, but it's also open for tours for school groups. And it's out on, what is that, New Carlisle Pike that you take out to New Carlisle? It's out there on the left as you get towards New Carlisle. But very neat, has working outhouses and it's furnished and decorated for 1878. So very cool experience. And it's, I mean, it's still one of the original one-room schools. And I know John Bartley, who we have a large collection of Springfield memorabilia and things that he's collected over the years, but he is now volunteering with us. And the project that I put him on was finding out where all the one-room schoolroom houses are now.
Yeah.
So he had helped with a detailed pin map years ago where they had pins on the map. And now he's going and trying to make a more digital version. So we'll have eventually a Google map that shows where the schools were that people can drive to. He's been contacting the owners of the current one-room schools to find out, like, if they know that they live in a one-room school or if they can tell any more information about that. So that's a big project that he's been working on, and hopefully we'll be able to share more of that information later with people, to show, like, there's lots of one-room schools that are houses. There's some that are barns or sheds or have been turned into other things or that are totally gone, but we'd like to have a very comprehensive list of all of them. So should have that soon. This is a Who Am I for 800. My parents were vaudeville actors and I followed them on the stage. I eventually worked for Gus Sun at his booking agency in Springfield before moving to New York City. I don't think there's much chance for this one. I just wanted to share because I thought she was cool looking. Her name was Tulsa Lee. And if you down in the museum next to the little theater, the Checkers Theater, there's a little room with trunks in there and stuff. And the trunks are from her family. That they were a vaudeville family. So those are theater trunks. But this is her in 1908. And when first time we put her up as to guess who this was, everybody guessed that she was Lillian Gish. She's not Lillian Gish, but she is from the same time period. But this is her at age 81. She was beautiful. And she was her in 1952, and she worked for Gus Sun. And she ended up coming back to Springfield later. And I don't remember the details of how late she lived, but I think she died here in the area.
For 1908 is pretty risque, right?
Yeah. Okay. This is a what's it for 1,000. These prefabricated steel houses were built in Columbus for only 2 years, but many still stand, including several in Springfield.
Lustrum?
Yep. Lustron homes. There's at least, I don't know. I know Kevin Rose did a video about a couple of them. I think there's like 6 or 7 that are still standing. There's one on McCrite that's right across from the Walgreens.
One on Harshman.
On Harshman. Oh yeah.
And there's one in Ridgewood.
And these are 2 from the paper here. I can't remember where the location of these 2 were now, but this is one on Rosewood here that was under construction. But this is the one that they have that you can actually go into at the Ohio History Center in Columbus, the Ohio History Connections Museum. It's really awesome. You can play in every room. So we thought that was a fun one. You can go in the backyard and everything's decorated like the 50s, and all the room, you can go into all the rooms and there's clothing and toys and games and kitchens fully furnished and everything. So it's really neat. So I've always wanted to ask the one on McCrite if I could go in and see what it looks like in there. But maybe I'll have to go bug the people on Harshman, see if they'll let me see inside. This is miscellaneous for 1,000. This March King performed in Springfield with his military band in 1909, 1912, and 1914.
Sousa.
Yes. So we have this picture of him in the archive under our like famous people cultural collection. So we're assuming this must have been some sort of promotional image that was sent ahead of a performance here or something like that. But this is him with Jackie Coogan, who was a child actor who performed with him.
Radio broadcast of something like Ripley's Believe It or Not that claimed that his original last name was just So, S-O.
Oh.
When his parents brought him into the United States, USA was next to his name. It just got
Ah.
tacked onto it. I mean, that was, believe it or not.
That's a good story. I
Yeah,
like that. I hope that's true. That's like US Grant, who, I always like that, he
Yeah.
didn't actually have a middle initial, but
yeah.
US. Cool. Good Eats for 400. This longtime popular lunchtime eatery opened in the New Myers Market in 1917 before moving into the Arcade in 1978 and the Shawnee Hotel in 1987. Before closing.
Matty Guthrie's.
Matty Guthrie's. I didn't realize it had been around for that long. But this is it in the market. And this is the picture of the outside sign. It was on that back edge of the arcade. And some different ads having to do with it. It's different locations.
Courier.
Miscellaneous for 400. A project of the Junior Chamber of Commerce, a children's zoo opened in this city park in 1963.
Reed Park.
Yeah. Old Reed Park. And this was interesting because I never was able to find out from anybody if this is an article about the Junior Chamber of Commerce getting this plane and moving it into place so that it would be ready for the park. But this article is from like 1958, which is several years before the park actually opened. And then when the park actually opened, I never saw mention of there being a plane there. So I asked people if anyone remembered a plane being there. So I'm thinking maybe the plan didn't work out. They didn't end up using the plane. But also in the paper, we found, a map when it opened in the exhibits that were planned for it. And it did have a big building that was built out there, and they had their own little, cage traveling, thing that could go in parades. But it was removed because it's Old Reed Park is where the reservoir is now. So I know there's a few things that are still around. There's a lion, out by the new the Kiwanis playground or the Rotary playground over at the park. There's like a brick, column that has the little lion on it. And I was told that the big hippo that's out, on,
Dayton, Springfield,
Dayton, Springfield, by the, what is that?
Catanzaro's.
But yeah, past Catanzaro's was from there as well. This local art for 400. Although not best known for his art, this funny man didn't have any hang-ups about putting out a book of his works.
That was Jonathan Winters, wasn't it?
Mm-hmm. So yeah, this is one of his art pieces from a book he put out called Hang-Ups, that was his artwork. We had done the program about him earlier this year where we got to share that interview that we had with him. And I know Flossie today brought in a book that he had done that came out around around 2000, 2001, that she had found at a book sale. So she donated it. Then we didn't have a copy of it in our collection. So I'm happy to have that. That's actually the last question that I have for today. So I think credit for the slide format goes to the free online thing that I don't download it offline to use it. Thank you guys for joining us. And if you missed any of these things, this is all of our social media channels where you can find, well, I say not, and it's not Twitter anymore, it's X, but we hardly ever post anything on Twitter. But most of the stuff we post is on Facebook, and a lot of the stuff that gets cross-posted in the newspaper also, so people can catch it there. So a lot of the stuff I shared tonight was from just the last few months, of things that we've run across, and stories and things like that. So we have a lot of fun stuff, and coming up, we've got so much this month. There is a tea at the Crable Homestead coming up on September 16th. If anybody would be interested in that, there's a 2 o'clock and a 5 o'clock sitting. That email went out today about that, and I know it's been in the paper, and we can sell tickets. We have tickets online, but if you call, we can do tickets here too. But that should be a fun afternoon. I'll be running around with that one. And then our next virtual program will be actually next week on the 6th. Retired Detective Dan DeWine is going to talk about the Dingledine Chapman murder case, which was in September 1937. There was 2 police officers that were killed as part in a burglary and shootout out at Crystal Lake in Medway, and he was the unofficial historian for the police department, just retired earlier this year, and he's going to share about that story. We've got a lot of pictures from the case, including the trial and things like that we'll share. So that'll be next Wednesday, September 6th at 7 o'clock. So he came in today to work on some more details about that. So we're putting that together. And then at the end of this month is our wizard event. So if you know anybody that's interested in Harry Potter, we'll have all sorts of fun classes and stuff on Saturday, September 30th that people can come to.
Thank you, Natalie. This was fun.
And yeah, if you have any questions or if you have any other ideas for future programs or anything like that, let me know. And thank you guys for coming.
Thank you.
Thank you,
Have a
Natalie.
good night. We'll see you next week, hopefully.
Yeah.
Bye.